Hello, I'm Robert Wolff.
And I'm Michael Hall.
And you are watching Innovation Coffee?
Coming to you live from Microsoft Build in Seattle.
Excellent. Hello, and once again, welcome to Innovation Coffee, where the coffee is hot, my espresso in particular, but the innovation is hotter. Michael, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this episode, man.
Yes, me too. And as a reminder, this is our weekly live stream brought to you by ARM, where we go live meeting with industry experts, developers, partners from the ARM ecosystem, learning what is happening here on the ARM Software Developers YouTube channel every week, Thursday, 5 p.m. UTC. You'll find us kind of sort of busy doing this, fun stuff every week. Now, today, what do we have in store, Michael? We're gonna be meeting with Gabriel Peterson. He's actually in Seattle right now, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's out in the field at one of these developer events that we've been going to a lot this year, talking to people who are building cool things on ARM. And of course, one of the big ones happening right now is Windows, the big Windows on ARM effort. And he's going to be talking to one of the principal engineers over there.
Principal software engineer at Microsoft, Mr. Marcus Perryman. I'm very excited because Marcus has actually been all over the world lately, giving some pretty interesting talks. Gabe had an opportunity to go see one of his talks at Microsoft Build. We are very fortunate to have him here for a small segment during this show where Gabe is going to walk us through all of the cool stuff that's happening at this event. He's going to give us some highlights. I think he has a pre-recorded video that we're going to watch. We're going to get to kind of see what it looks like when you're walking into the event, checking out the keynotes, all that cool stuff. Now, I think one thing we have to just be aware or give a small disclaimer on is that, event Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty sometimes. This is in this case, I think only our second or third time attempting something like this. We're still perfecting our audio, our AV. We're still kind of perfecting this process. So if we do cut out for a second, or if Gabriel cuts out for a second, give us a minute to troubleshoot it. We'll do our best to get him back on. Otherwise, we'll, of course, close out the episode and tell you about what's happening next week. But I don't expect there to be any problems. I think this is going to go off with a hit. Last reminder. If you enjoy the episode, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the ARM Software Developer YouTube channel, join us on Discord. We'll share some more information about that later, and of course, the ARM Developer Program. But for now, I think it's time to bring Gabriel and Marcus Perryman in. Gabriel, our Senior Developer Evangelist at ARM, and Marcus Perryman, Principal Software Engineer at Microsoft. Let's bring them in and let them have the show. You guys have the floor now. So, hey, Gabe. You there?
Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Again, we're here live from Microsoft Build 2023 in Seattle. It's gorgeous. It's the same exact weather that I left in San Diego. So I was expecting gloom and wet, and it's sunny. So
amazing.
I'm here with Marcus Perryman. If you wouldn't mind telling our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Oh, yeah, sure. As you heard, I'm a principal developer in the Windows organization, and for the last few years, I've been focusing on enabling the developing on ARM ecosystem for Windows.
Great. Yeah, so I know there's a lot of misconceptions right now about developing for Windows on ARM. Mm-hmm. How would you address some of those? What are some of the things that you've been seeing that aren't true?
Well, a lot of people talk about the challenges of adopting a brand new platform. But what we're finding is that the majority of the tools that are available today, and that's the area we're working on, are available actually not just to build cross-compile to ARM, but also available to build native on ARM. So we're listening to developers that are saying challenges around, how do I actually start building this, and bringing those tools to the place they want to be. So some of the misconceptions are that I can't get a device. Well, we've got devices. We've built last year the Windows Dev Kit 2023, and that's available as a pretty powerful platform to build, well, any application, but specifically an ARM native application. In terms of tools, people say, well, yeah, maybe I need a compiler that's going to run quickly. Well, we've built our own compilers to be ARM native, not just cross-compile, but actually bring them onto that dev platform so that you can sit there and do the tight loop of develop, code, compile, debug, and round. And you say, well, okay, well, maybe that's just the Microsoft tools. But no, we've actually been working with open source software as well, very heavily. That's actually been my focus area. We've had LLVM since version 12, which on GitHub is like 40% of GitHub projects are powered by that. But since version 12, we've been able to cross-compile, and we also have native compile from Clang, from the LLVM toolset as well. The other area, if I may.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
The other area is around open source software. So modern software today is pretty reliant on that. You look at any complex application, it's going to have multiple open source projects that are actually part of that. And the challenge is you're thinking, well, how can I bring my component to ARM native if I'm dependent on stuff that's not? And we recognize that. So we're working with ARM Holdings in collaboration also with Qualcomm and an open source group called Lenaro to actually focus on driving that ecosystem where when we need investment, we'll do that and we'll bring those across. So misconceptions are it's not ready. No, it absolutely is. The developing on ARM or for ARM is ready to create ARM native apps today.
That's great. Yeah, Robert Wolff, our host, actually worked for Lenaro in the past.
Okay,
yeah.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it is. So talking about equipment, I know the Windows Dev Kit 23. Yeah, it's a great machine, 32 gigs of RAM. It's got the NPU on it, correct? What are some other machines that you'd recommend if they wanted to start building on ARM? Or is that the machine you'd recommend someone go and get?
So it's not the only machine. But if I put my developer hat on, and I am a developer at heart, I'd choose that one. And the reason I choose that one is because of the lack of thermal limitation. So you think about the value of an ARM chip in a modern device, it's about the thermals. It's about keeping it quiet and cool and stuff. But when you go to a dev box, you don't want that. And you don't care. I stick it on the desk, make it go. And the dev kit does that. But I recognize not everybody can get one. They're only available in, I think it's 6 markets directly. Other devices that are just as good for development, the Surface Pro 9 5G, which is from Microsoft. It's a different price point, but it also gives you a workstation which you can pick up and carry around. So you benefit from sort of the customer's view of the platform as well. I do develop on that. I do prefer to have an external keyboard, but that's a good platform. That's running on the HCX Gen 3 Snapdragon core, which is exactly the same chip as you find in the dev kit. Okay, that's the Microsoft world. Right. It's not just about Microsoft. So Lenovo have a brand new device, the X13S, which is also running on the same silicon. So that's the HCX Gen 3. It comes with the NPU, as you mentioned, but that comes in a laptop form factor at different price points again. So you have that variance, slightly smaller device actually, so it's even more portable than maybe even the 9 5G. There is another device I'll mention. Dell have just launched their Inspiron 14. There you go, from memory. I think I got that right. That's actually based on the HCX Gen 2, so it's a generation older, but the price point's very good. It's like $499. I think they're listing at a start price. So you've got variety, and that's current gen stuff. And we're working with OEMs to continue to innovate in this space.
Yeah, it's great to see all the different choices that are available now. And I know when you're developing, one of the things that you're really concerned about is not the core language or framework you're developing in, it's the libraries and things like that. So items such as pandas or matplotlib or that kind of thing. So what's this current state of the industry for these libraries that people rely on?
So as I mentioned at the top, Lenaro's the strategy we're taking. I'm driving that actually from the Microsoft side with a partnership with Qualcomm, with ARM Holdings and Lenaro. And the reason we've chosen them is because in the industry, they bring an expertise level. It's like 12 or 13 years they've been working directly on ARM enablement of open source software. So they bring us not just the expertise technically, because we can build that as a software company, but they bring to us the expertise of working with that community. So they have a level of trust, which takes time to build. And when we work with them, they understand those products and the way people are developing in that space, and that takes a long time to build. So we're working closely with them. So what are they doing? Well, what we did in the early days was to look at the open source space and try and figure out which ones are the most commonly used. And believe me, that's quite hard. But there are some obvious ones. And then engage with them on a project of enablement. Now, there's 3 steps to this, a little bit of detail here, but come with me. Step 1 is enablement, because developers are blocked if they're trying to use in process for their application a library that is not available ARM native. So enablement is key, but it's not the end of the journey. The second step is optimization. So enabling software can be done relatively quickly, or maybe we'll talk about that later in this interview. But optimization takes a lot longer, and that's a journey. And we're on that journey, and we're not going to stop. So when we've started the enablement, we step to the optimization. And the third step for some projects is actually specialization. And we recognize that something like Python can be specialized for the hardware, the SOC we've got on ARM to do better things than you can on other silicon. Okay, so that's our vision. Our direction was about finding the most commonly used libraries. In terms of progress, I'll give you a number. You can challenge me on it afterwards. But I spent some time trying to figure this out. 48 million developer events today are now possible ARM native that weren't last year. I'll give you a little bit of data. It's hard to come up with numbers about what you've done. But if you look at something like Python, I think it's 11 million developers events. That's people downloading, running, using Python. Yeah. Now we have CPython ARM native. All of those things can happen on the platform. But CPython or Python has its own rich ecosystem, like you mentioned, NumPy, Matplotlib, Pandas, and so on. And that's almost an unending investment. But we're committed. So we took the top 500 as a starting point. In that top 500, based on downloads, some of those libraries do have binary components. NumPy is a good example. And those binary components have to be compiled ARM native in order to have CPython execute them. Yesterday in that session, I demonstrated that we've done that. We've got, of those 500, we've got them all available with ARM native. And what we're trying to do is kickstart the ecosystem there. And we'll continue to invest in that. But over time, we're hoping that the Python library owners will get the message and follow us with that. So let me wrap this up, a long spiel here, but let me wrap this up by encouraging people to go, if you can, to aka.ms/ARMOSS, which is a URL that will take you to the Linaro open project and track our progress, go see what's there. So you can go see what libraries we've done, where we're working, how we did it, and jump in, get involved.
Perfect. Yeah, Robert, that was a slightly different URL than the one you had prepped before.
I didn't give you that one before.
Oh, no worry. We're equipped to do it on the fly, so it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
So I was actually leading perfectly into that. I was going to ask because I saw from your talk that if there's something you need, that there is an avenue to approach to get people to work on it, or at least a signal that you would like them to work on it.
Yes, absolutely. So working again with Linaro, and this is new ground for them. So we're learning together, bringing our expertise in terms of working with developers to them. We've built together a way where a customer, a developer that wants a particular library, maybe we haven't prioritized it because we haven't seen the demand. There is a site on their page where you can request that, and then we triage in the open. So it's an open meeting. You're welcome to join. We triage those requests and prioritize them based upon what we've got on the list. So jump onto that URL. Can I have it again?
Oh yeah, go.
So it's aka.ms/ARMOSS.
Perfect.
Have we got it? Yeah, look at that. Great team.
Yes. And I know Michael in particular had a question, because I know it is really nice to develop on Windows on ARM, but every once in a while you run into a tool that's Linux only. And so, of course, Windows has Windows subsystem for Linux.
That's correct.
How is that on Windows on ARM? Does it run well? And
Yeah, it's actually fine. So let's talk a little bit about WSL.
Yeah.
So we've been on a journey with that. And in version 2, which is what we have in Windows 11, the WSL, the subsystem, is running virtualized under our hypervisor. So you're getting performance inside of WSL, which is equivalent to natively on the platform, more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, we can argue the milliseconds if you like. But on ARM, we're running an ARM native version of Linux on there. So you have the full subsystem right there. And you can even run GUIs in that with WSL2. So they can stand alone as like Windows right alongside your other Windows apps. So it is a very powerful solution. And you can now actually, if I can just add one more thing, announced in our talk yesterday, is that the Visual Studio team have added support for WSL development on our ARM version of Visual Studio. So you can actually go and build a Linux product in Visual Studio and target it straight at WSL on ARM and debug and run that whole workload on your Windows Dev Kit 23. If I can again plug that device.
Oh. So I have it. Robert knows I have it on my list to get one for myself, because there's definitely a lot of work I want to be doing on that. So of course you had the Q&A about Windows on ARM, and then yesterday you had the ARM apps. I was there for both of them, but I was really impressed with when they were showing performance versus the emulation. And so I know that's one of the big reasons for not just letting it run emulated, but to actually go through the effort, which is
complicated question. We have a team to get our x64 with Windows 11 emulation working, and it's a JIT architecture, so instructions, and then we'll cache. So we're pretty efficient, and we are continuing to work on that. And we have to have that emulation as a base level for the platform, and it's great. We run a huge percentage of the apps. There are some we can't, so we can't emulate in the kernel. So if you have a kernel driver, the options are pretty limited, because running the emulation in that layer in there is hard, and it's not something we want to do. So you will have to do ARM native. But if you have an app today that's x64, it should, in 98 whatever it is %, it will just run on the platform. The question is how does it run, or how quick does it run? Let's go that way. As a good example, let's start with WhatsApp, who announced that they're working on an ARM native version of their app for Windows. They shipped the x64 version last year, and it was sweet. It runs really well. And I have to say, that's great emulation layer. But WhatsApp committed to go to a platform see it's about a 40% step up in startup time. It's lower memory, and it's lower battery, which is the key performance for that app. It's a really good emulation experience, and even better native.
Hey, I'm sorry for interrupting, guys. Can you hear me? Gabe, I'm sorry for interrupting. We're actually getting some connectivity issues.
Here, I'm going to back out and then come back in. I see what's going on.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. All right, cool. Let's bring Michael in here. So, hey,
Hey.
Mike, what's up, buddy? Yeah, I mean,
Hey.
so far, very interesting talk, and let's see if they can fix this connectivity issue because it's so far it's actually really good. Let's. It looks like they're back in the call. Gabe, are you there? Hello, hello.
You know, I was hearing a lot more like background noise. I'll bet some of the talks just let out, and everybody
that
now
makes
is on their
sense.
phone on Wi-Fi.
As soon as the talks let out, everyone gets on their phone and starts tweeting or mastodoning. Is that a verb now? But yeah, so let's see if it's catching up. Gabe, can you talk to us maybe for a second? See if you're catching up.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little robotic, and
yeah, it's unfortunate. We may need to give it a second to catch up. Michael, do you want to maybe like you and I can kind of hold this for a second?
Yeah,
troubleshooting on your end.
Things that Marcus was talking about that like has got my brain going. I know. So yeah, if you want to just like let's take over for a little bit until maybe the Wi-Fi there calms down.
Okay, cool. Let's see if Gabe and Marcus can troubleshoot this, and then Gabe, feel free to bring yourself back in as soon as this settles. It looks like you're kind of clearing up, but it might just take a second. So yeah, Gabe has been bugging me for one of these developer devices now for some time. We finally are hopefully able to purchase one of these for him, and him meeting with Marcus hopefully gets him more excited to get this going. But what were your thoughts so far, Michael?
So one of the big things that struck me was that Surface Pro 9 with the Snapdragon CPU. So my wife is a big Surface Pro person. Like she's 3 generations into it. And she wants the full power of Windows. So she had to get the Surface Pro, which has always been an Intel chip. So for me, like it's not really the form factor for an Intel chip. It's a tablet size.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have like the battery life I would expect for something of that form factor. But with that Snapdragon, then it should. Now you've got a full Windows laptop that's got maybe all day battery. Comparable to this Mac, the M1 Mac that I have. So that might convert me to a Surface.
I'm gonna up you one here because I was out in London, last month for Lenaro Connect, and oh my goodness, was I impressed by the one that Marcus mentioned, the Lenovo X13S. And this is kind of like at least the way I see things, right? You go to an event like Lenaro Connect where all of these low-level kernel developers, all of the people who are literally running Linux on their day-to-day, all right, to develop things, contribute into these areas. But not only that, they're the ones who are enabling the chipsets and everything that goes into the enablement that you end up seeing where, okay, now we have Windows on ARM, et cetera, et cetera. The big thing that I like to see is that when you have these kernel developers working, what is their daily driver? And I'm seeing a lot of people move their daily driver over to the X13S, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm really excited when I start seeing the mentions of this X13 because I was able to play with it. I think there was one thing they were talking about in terms of something that maybe this generation won't have, that the next generation will have, and that they're kind of preparing for the next generation. Not sure exactly. I don't know. I wasn't able to touch too much on that. But the X13S is definitely something that I'll be looking into in terms of something for me to play with in the coming days or coming months.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to be said for using the hardware that the kernel hackers are using. I remember, back in my Ubuntu days, the X220, X230 from Lenovo was the best supported at the time because that's the laptop that all of the desktop and the kernel engineers had.
All right, Michael, I think we did our job.
Yeah. Are you able to hear? I had to switch my phone's hotspot.
Yeah,
okay, perfect.
We can hear and see you much better now. I think this is actually gonna keep us going well. All right, so Gabe, we're gonna hand it back to you then. All right.
All right. So where did we cut off? What was Marcus talking about at the moment when we went robotic?
The like WhatsApp port to ARM and the ability to run x86 code on
Do you want me to pick it up from there?
Yeah.
Okay, just to remind people, we were talking about get what emulation experience you get versus native, and we were talking about Minecraft. I was going to get there. So we were talking about the top end of that scale, which is WhatsApp. But when you look down the scale a bit and you get to something like Minecraft and you crack that open, what you find is there's a whole lot more actual app code that's being executed per second. You know, you're spending all the CPU time not in the operating system, which is already ARM64 native. You're actually spending it in that JITted code. And so the performance then, the impact of emulated starts to step up. And so you'll find the same or similar profiles in apps like Electron or where they're shipping a lot of client code to execute. And so you can get 40, 50% improvement, depending on what you're doing, on the emulation versus ARM native for those applications. So the key thing to do is test it. Yeah. So take a look at it, and we're doing that. We have a whole team that's actually going over popular apps and looking at them and then reaching out to developers and saying, your app needs a bit of attention. Can we help? So that's the key thing to do. But I have to say, in order to deliver the promise of ARM on our Windows platform, you have to have an ARM native application. We get battery life. The customer gets battery life. They get all day. They get low power. They get really fast apps, and that's what we want. So North Star, get it ARM native, but take a look at the emulation to see what sort of experience it is, and that will help you prioritize how quickly you do it.
Yeah, I was impressed during the demonstration when you showed off, or when it was showed off, the WhatsApp emulation, and it did feel fast, like it was definitely usable. And then they showed native and the increase. So yeah, I'm impressed on both accounts. Now, I know dealing with that kind of made me lose my train of thought for where I was going next. So because you were talking about Minecraft, the Unity slides showing that Unity is coming native. I have a personal interest in it because I'm a hobbyist game maker and make things in Unity. And so it's great to see that like bigger engines and things like that are putting forth effort, because of course so many experiences are created on Unity. Right. So if it goes native, then that's just a large ecosystem that is suddenly available on these devices. And I know other items such like Dropbox, you said it was coming later this year, right?
It is, yeah, they're working on that one. So Dropbox is, if you remember, I talked about emulation versus native. Dropbox is a case where they actually have a kernel level driver. So they haven't been able to run up to now on ARM because we just can't emulate their driver. So we've been working with them for quite a while, actually, to figure out the best way to bring them forward. But because their customers are asking them that they want to use it, which is great. So that they reached out to us and we're working with them. They now have done that port. I've seen the very early versions of that running, but they're now in obviously testing, optimization, getting it all right, and they're looking to ship. I think they said early summer. So watch out for that, and that'll be the beta version. And then they've got plans to roll out towards the end of the year.
Oh, awesome. Robert, did you or Mike have any questions, or are there any in the chat?
So far, there are not any questions in the chat. I think we lost quite a few of our viewers during the little kerfuffle we had there. But I will say, I think that we need to get a dedicated hotspot moving forward, because this is way cleaner. And this is probably how we're going to have to do. So, yeah, Marcus, very sorry, because this is, again, like as I mentioned at the beginning, not something we have done too many times yet. And we're learning as we go along, as we encounter these issues.
I love that it's live, right? It's real. That's life. You got to deal with it.
Exactly. So very cool. No questions on our end. Michael, did you have any questions that you wanted to bring to Marcus before we say goodbye?
Just like, sorry to throw you on the spot, but you were just talking about like Unity and everything. So I was wondering, do you support like the Vulkan API on Windows on ARM?
So there is work in that space. So let's come back to the Unity thing just briefly. So Unity are shipping their runtime for Windows and ARM. So ARM native, their runtime, and that's coming in 23.1, I think it is. Their stream's going to be available later this year. Now they're building in support for the GPU that's on the Snapdragon 8CX Gen 3. In terms of how that's working, I actually don't have the details, but Unity may well publish more details once they get there. But it's worth noting that on the chip, there are other ways to accelerate besides the GPU. There's some interesting work going on around the NPU, the neural processing core, to look at ways to accelerate other workloads besides just inferencing. So there's a lot of things we don't know yet about what we can do, and we're experimenting with. So there could be some exciting stuff around the corner in the next 12 months to see how we do that. But the NPU is there. We haven't mentioned that. On the system on chip, we get a pretty cool NPU for doing AI, and we already use that in box directly for that. But for the graphics, yeah, we're looking at everything that's on the chip and looking at ways that we can bring that to maximize the gaming experience or the GPU experience, because we recognize, today mobile GPUs are still growing and getting better, getting stronger, but we're not at the level where we're matching discrete GPUs yet.
Awesome. That answer your question, Michael?
Absolutely.
I think someone we could talk to internally is Gemma Paris as well. She's doing some work in this area, right, Gabe? And maybe
she's doing a big push on Windows on ARM. And when I showed some of the pictures of the slides, she even showed a couple of the ones she knew about, and she knew those articles ahead of time.
Cool. All right. So, Gabe, are we good with this? Marcus, how
I thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for the time. Great to see you all.
Yeah, it was great having you
Good
on.
hearing from you, Marcus.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yes. Take care. Thank you so much. All right, Gabe, it's once again back to you here. We get to talk about now the event, your perspective, highlights, the cool stuff that you've experienced while you're there. The floor is yours once again. What does it look like over there?
Well, if you wanted to start with showing off the video I linked, and I could just kind of talk through it, only because there's no audio, but I'll talk over it. It is just...
I'm pulling it up. I'm pulling it up right now. So let me grab this right here. I'm going to make it bigger here, and then I'm going to share it. It's going to look you're not going to get to see a full screen here, but I can actually do this. So window, and then we have right here, boom, share, bring this in. How does that look there, Gabe? Are you able to see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to hit play, and then you can just talk through it, yeah?
Yeah, and that video starts right down there outside. So, yeah, I sped this up. It's several different speeds depending on where. Yesterday morning, I took the video because Monday morning there was this giant line to get into the keynote. And I didn't have the foresight to record that. So I thought, okay, I'll just try it the next day. There won't be as many people, but it'll still be interesting. But it was huge. It was probably 80% of the line that there was before. But we're in this brand new convention center. It's really nice. Yeah, here's where you can start seeing the line to get into the keynote. It snakes all the way around, goes up another floor. It's funny. Yeah, I was playing around with speeds. It's like slows down when I look out the window. Speeds back up. Yeah, it's 8 times going up the escalator, 4 times speed just walking around. Showing off, San Diego weather in Seattle. Yeah, carries on. There's more of the line just continuing on. The day 2 keynote was, that's still the line to get into the keynote.
Like three different floors of lines.
Yeah, and then I did a quick fade. So this is when the line started moving in, and there's no pass-through audio, correct? So I can keep talking at that.
Yeah, we can't hear anything. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So it's just snaking all the way through, again, the convention center. I did this because there's no main expo hall. Normal convention, I would have liked to show off all the booths and things like that, but they have booths, but they're segmented into smaller rooms, and it doesn't make for a good video this way.
Hey, Gabe.
Yeah.
Why is everyone in such a hurry?
Because they wanted to see the keynote. Yeah, and then you have all these employees with like flight stick batons guiding people to go in. I was pretty early too. Like I think this was like 40 minutes before the keynote started. And I got a nice front row seat, even though it's on the very right or close to front row. And then this is where Microsoft was really flexing their production values. and sadly you can't hear the noise, but there's this thumping sound that goes in time with the logo on screen. But when it starts showing off, you can see it like bleeding off into the side screens. All the screens are synced together in this really cool visual audio experience. Again, you'll be able to see it online. Like, one of the things I forgot to talk to Marcus about, but he had mentioned before the call, is if you register for Build online, the videos are free to watch. So all of these things that couldn't be experienced in person, yeah, there's the link for it, can be experienced online. So you can watch Marcus's talks, you can watch all the other talks, and they are very nice. And all the talks had nice production values and seemed well polished.
Yeah. So
and then you can end the video there.
Yeah, it's my understanding that at least from what we talked about with Marcus before we went live, was that all of these videos should be up online within the next 24, 48 hours or so. The virtual experience, the virtual ticket, is completely free. And that means that you from home can go to build.microsoft.com right down there. We'll share it in the comments. It'll also be included in the description, but you can go there and you can watch all of the content at your discretion on demand, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so the big takeaway from this event and the big push is AI. It's the Chat GPT, it's their co-pilot. So I don't know if you've been following the news, but because as these announcements went live, like all the tech blogs and things started writing about them. But like Copilot on Windows, which is essentially Chat GPT integrated with Windows, or the different Copilot X. So if you're writing with Copilot in like Visual Studio or something like that, now you can, if you go through the wait list for X, you can have essentially a AI pair programmer with you. You can ask to explain what code is doing. You can ask to generate things. It's really slick. There's a co-pilot for the command line. So if you're getting a weird command line error, you can ask it to explain it, or you can ask, hey, what is the command and arguments I need to do a specific thing, and it'll lay it out for you. So gone are the days of having to memorize obscure strings and tags for every little thing, which is great for me personally with like GitHub things, because I have the primary 5 actions memorized, but then it's like, oh, how do I modify 3 commits ago to change something? And then I have to spend half an hour researching the exact syntax and everything. Whereas you could just...
It's not going to be RTFM, read the friendly manual anymore. It's going to be ask the friendly AI assistant.
Yeah, and I was watching the demonstrations, and it's just very slick.
This is actually interesting you say this, because I've been talking to some other companies, and what they're doing is, or at least from what I understand, I don't know the exact company that's doing this particular one, but what you can do is you can feed it a bunch of documentation. So you upload a bunch of documentation, or you create your model around all this documentation, and then you generate a search engine, and then this search engine will answer questions based on the documentation, allowing little to no creativity, right? And I think that's one of the big things, is that if you give it too much creativity, then you run the problem of making people more frustrated or confused. But if you give it the data and you allow less creativity, you can have a pretty solid FAQ manual or search engine based on documentation.
Yeah, you give it too much creativity, you end up with like that Chat GPT bot I wrote that just insults Twitch viewers. It doesn't do anything helpful at all.
That was intentional.
Yeah, it was intentional, but it's still something that can happen if you're not careful with prompting. But no, what you had mentioned is one of the things. Oh, thank you again. One of the things that you mentioned is something they were talking about. If you're using the Azure full stack AI platform, they do all these things where you can use their base model, and then you can feed it your information, so like your documentation, things like that. So if you're running a website or a business and you have a customer service bot and you want it to know like your return policies and things like that, it'll have all the context awareness that like ChatGPT normally does, in addition to knowing all of your documentation, which can give solid answers to your company's specific things. And they're also siloed, so it's not, you don't have to be worried about you're feeding your company's information that's going to get absorbed into the bigger model and end up going public. It stays yours. So it's a really useful feature. I want to look more into it myself.
Okay, so Gabe, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted to see that cutscene so bad. What special news do you have for us today, Gabe?
I mean, you should have ran that graphic 5 minutes ago. Like, I was just talking about it.
Yeah. No, I'm just messing. Please.
The majority of the talks are on different implementation of OpenAI's GPT and how it's getting absorbed into Windows, how it's getting absorbed into Office 365. So some of those types of things that like we struggle with in Excel, where you have to kind of figure out, oh, I want it to do this specific thing. Like very soon, you'll be able to just literally tell the built-in assistant, hey, format these cells to do this and this, and then it'll generate it for you automatically. Or send this graphic to this person on Teams, and it'll do it automatically. So you don't have to go in and go through the process yourself.
And so, Gabe, I want to, that's awesome, by the way. Great stuff. I'm curious, though, because I don't know that I've been, actually, you know what, now that I think about it, Lenaro Connect is somewhat like this. So maybe you can kind of tell us a little bit more about how the event experience is a little more, because we touched on the fact that you show up in the morning, you go to the keynotes, that's pretty generic. But then what's the hallway track like? Without an expo hall, you know, what are people doing throughout the day? There's some people sitting around. I see some people hanging off the balconies over there, you know, walking around, meeting each other. But like, what are you doing walking from one thing to the other? And what are you walking to?
So it's because I don't have the experience at the events that you and Michael have, I'm not really sure how it compares. It's the hallway track's interesting because it does seem to be a little bit less social, like just with striking up random conversations like PyCon was, which was great for that. But it seems to be people that already know each other from different industries and are finally getting to see in person after a while. That's what most of the meetups seem to be happening. I know and Dave, for instance, from ARM, like he was meeting up with people from Lenaro and other ARM employees and people at Microsoft that he already knew and was working with. So it's, again, I don't have the experience to know if that's a typical or an unusual thing for this event, but it's just something to note. They do have a...
Sorry. What about developer presence? I mean, like, are you noticing that there are a lot of developers here, or is it more like operators? Is it more like, you know, product managers, executives? Like, what are you noticing in terms of the type of attendee?
So all of the above. It's while most of the content is geared towards developers, well, is advertised as being geared towards developers, sitting through a bunch of these talks, it seems very, very high level. Gotcha. So the type of thing that like a project manager could understand or something like that, or someone in marketing could understand versus having to be a developer to understand. I don't know how much of that is because AI is the big push and ease of use and integration is kind of one of the overarching themes, or if that's just to make it more open to anyone who is interested in this kind of thing, because they do offer the Learn resources available for people who want to do a deeper dive and learn how to actually do it. And they do have labs set up so you could go and do some of these, get some hands-on action with it. But it's not as hardcore of a developer presence as I was thinking beforehand, I should say.
Gabe, we have a special request from the audience here. Give me 1 second. Michael, I heard that you had something very important to announce and to ask Gabe.
That I had something important to ask Gabe?
Yeah, that's what the whole news, snippet was about.
No, I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, Gabe, then back to you.
Yeah, you keep
To make
keep throwing
his
these.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's all about the curveball.
I told you, Mike. It just you're admin now. Go and temporarily remove his privileges. You're in control.
Yeah, but hopefully you enjoyed that TIA.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to talk about, just because I was really interested in it, it's related to some of the projects I'm doing, like with Stable Diffusion on these edge devices, and Qualcomm had a talk specifically on that, which I found amusing, especially because the information they provided is way easier than the way I was doing it. So they're using the Onyx runtime, Onyx and Olive, which essentially allows you to do these ML builds, such as like Stable Diffusion, and have it optimized for the specific hardware without having to actually go in and write it for that specific hardware. So it's a kind of a layer where you create your program, you go through Onyx and Olive, and then you tell it what you're building for, and then it does the heavy lifting for you and optimizes it for that platform. So way easier than how I was doing it. So, and that came up in several topics. So Onyx, ONNX, and Olive, for anyone watching who's interested, definitely go look those up, or look up some of the talks that were at Microsoft to build about them, because it was new to me and it's fascinating.
So then, Gabe, I think we have about 15 minutes left, but I want to leave some time to close this out. Of course, I'd love to talk about next week's episode as well. So
Yes.
let's kind of finish this off with a call to action. Michael's saying, I think his audio is messing up a little bit, so Michael's trying to fix that. But let's finish this off with a call to action, because I know, what was it? Marcus had a call to action that we'd like to share. Of course,
Yes.
Starting off right here, number one is that let's remind everyone that if you want to experience this event, all the talks, the keynotes, from what I understand, it is a completely free virtual event, and you can get access to all of this content on demand by visiting build.microsoft.com. Go ahead, register for the virtual event. You can still do it. You can still get access to all of this content. Gabe here is providing a great perspective of how the energy level is, how you feel, what the event feels like. So for those of you who are interested in possibly attending this event next year, Gabe's giving us some great insights here, but you can also experience it through that.
I just wanted to interrupt you directly, because while the experience as it relates to my job function is not as much as I would have liked, my experience as just a developer and someone who's passionate about this type of thing was excellent. So anyone who's interested in any of this stuff, it's a great event. So everything's highly polished. All the talks are very entertaining and informative. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's great. Let's snip that little piece right there, Gabe, because that was very well said. So, some events, like when you think of us three here on the call, developer evangelists for ARM, traveling the world, trying to assess what types of developers and who are going to these events. Like in some cases, it's like, well, there may not be a lot of developers here, or the talks may not be specifically tailored to getting you deep training into a specific topic, but you still learn tons and tons of things, and you experience or you get a chance to see technologies that you may not have even been aware of, right? And this is some of the cool stuff that come out of events like this.
Yeah.
Granted, of course, I'm not there, but I hope I'm interpreting that a little bit. Right.
No, 100%. Yeah, those were my thoughts on it.
Excellent. All right, cool. So Gabe, call to action. We have visit build.microsoft.com. There you can get access to all the content. I know that Marcus wanted us to share this one, and this is aka.ms/add arm support. Did you want to just talk briefly about what Marcus was referring to when he wanted to action this one? I
don't remember exactly what's at that link, because I know he provided the two links. One of them is for requesting support to be added, like libraries to be transitioned over and that kind of thing. And then I think that is just learning and more resources for building on ARM, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, well, so I'm gonna share it real quick right here so we can just look at it. So when you go to aka.ms/add arm support, Yeah, so it's adding support for your particular Windows app, emulation on ARM-based devices for x86 or x64 Windows apps. It goes through prerequisites on how to set up your developer environment, how to steps to add ARM64 native support, and so on and so forth. There is a lot of documentation here. It even dives into the Windows Dev Kit that's available. We talked a little bit about that, how to set it up, update history, so on and so forth. Again, featuring ARM-based chipsets. These dev kits are amazing pieces of hardware that you can get your hands on and begin your Windows on ARM journey with. So definitely a great action. People go visit that. Again, it will be available in the description if you're watching this on demand. Last but not least, Gabe, did you have any calls to action, or did you want to refer to anything, Michael, yourself? Let's start with you, Gabe.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same one I do every week, and go and join the ARM developer program if you're not already a member. If you want to go throw that graphic on, it's a great community of experts, and all three of us are in the Discord most of the time. So
Gabe,
if you want to...
You're going to just have to turn around real quick. Show us the back of your shirt, because it's an amazing shirt.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, the camera froze. Oh, wait, one more time. The camera froze. One more time.
Yeah.
There you go. ARM developer program. Woo! Love it. Yeah, these are cool. These are cool shirts. And Michael, I think you're wearing the same one. We have the nice little ARM developer logo, ARM developer program in the back. Yeah, I still have the old school one. It's just developer.arm.com. Still a cool site. But yeah, of course. All right. So visit the developer program. If you want to join us, completely free program, get access to amazing tools, resources, access to our ARM experts from within ARM, lots and lots of stuff that you can get from that. Now, last one, Reddit, right? You wanted to do the Reddit?
Oh, yes. Yeah, go and check out our Reddit. I post daily. I haven't done today's post yet, but I'll do it a little later. But it's just cool things and happenings items that are built on ARM, news about ARM, that kind of thing. Feel free to post anything ARM related. It's very unstructured and fun.
Awesome. Michael, anything you got?
All right. I hope you can hear me. I know my internet's kind of being terrible right now, but if you're interested in Windows on ARM, join our Discord. We have a dedicated channel for desktop and laptop use. So you can talk about it there. You can find other people working on it. I know we've got someone from Ampere who's got a dev kit that'll run Windows on ARM too, who's in our chat. So come join us there. We're there every day, 24/7 basically, but not all of us. But there's somebody in there 24/7.
We try to be. Yeah, but cool. All right, Gabe. I mean, thank you so much for setting all of this up, traveling with all that equipment over to Seattle, and bringing us an amazing guest today. Last words for anyone before I close the episode out?
Nope, go for it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's been a true pleasure having you here, whether you're watching us live, watched us throughout this hour, or on demand. We appreciate every minute of your time that you gave us. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button. It helps us out a lot, lets us know whether or not we're building the right content for you. And follow us, because we do this every single week, every Thursday, 5 p.m. UTC, which is 10 a.m. Pacific. We look forward to seeing you next week. And next week, I got home yesterday from the Embedded Vision Summit up in Santa Clara, and we have a very exciting one. I actually walked the whole showroom floor, showed the experience from the entrance of the conference hall to the ARM booth. We showed the ARM booth. We talked about 3 separate demos. I met with some of our partners, saw the cool ARM stuff that they're showcasing, and we actually got some guests who were showcasing demos at the event. They are going to be joining us during this stream next week. They'll be showing us the same demos that we were featuring at the ARM booth. So if you want to see some cool stuff happening, join us next week. It'll be a breakdown of the Embedded Vision Summit. We'll showcase the ARM booth and some amazing demos. Michael, Gabe, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care. Have a good day, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.